Hello, my friends. This is Brent. I am a coach, a healer, and an intuitive, and I have a story I want to share with you with a very important principle behind it. We'll call it the moral of the story, and I want to tell it to you and see where that leads us. So that's where we're going to go with today's video. It's about your intuition. It's about your own karma, so to speak, following your own particular path. And the main question, the central question here that we're going to explore is, what happens when you have a spiritual impulse, right? So you have your intuition speaking to you, or say you have like the Tao has created some sort of creative impulse in you. Like you just feel the calling to do something, but then that brushes against your own principles, your morals, your belief system, your psychology. And so then it just creates this backup buildup of tension. And as a result of that tension, you are stagnating because you can't move forward in the way that you're feeling called. So what do you do in a situation like that? Have you ever encountered a situation like that? And if so, what happens? Are you in that situation now? So for me, it happens a lot. And the reason for that is because I'm a voracious consumer of all sorts of psychological and philosophical and spiritual content. I love it. I collect it. I learn about it. And invariably what happens if you're like me is that as time goes on, you collect a lot of information, and then the messages that you learn about, they start to diverge. They start to point to different things. Just putting down my tea here. They point to different things. They start, one's pointing east, the other's pointing west. And so when that happens, then you may think, okay, well now what I need to do is find a way to capitulate them all, to bring them all together. I need a meta theory that will indicate, the appropriate time and place for each point of view, so I know what to do in any given moment and they can speak to each other. But then you do that, right? But then you actually end up encountering either, say, theories that don't mesh with this theory, and so you can't fit it into your thing, or you encounter other meta theories, other theories of everything, and they don't mesh together. Now you need an even bigger theory. You need a meta theory, and it just goes on and on and on forever. So this is tough, and it's especially tough if you, like me, have positioned your life where you're like, all right, I'm first gonna figure out everything, and then I'm gonna act. Which, when you say it like this, it's obviously quite nonsense. First I'm gonna figure out everything, then I'm gonna act. First I'm gonna heal myself completely. I'm gonna get rid of all the debris. I'm gonna get all of the nonsense in me. Everything about me that's wrong, bad, unsavory, I'm gonna get rid of it all first. And then life really begins. Then I'm really going to rock and roll and get into the stuff that I'm meant to get into. So that doesn't work, because this thing of creating theories of the process of understanding as well as the process of healing, these are lifelong processes. They have no end. They just become deeper and more profound and more subtler and more nuanced. There's no end point. There's no end point to your awakening. You just become more awake and more awake. I love learning about different psychological growth models. Integral theory is very rich with them, different ways of exploring growth and evolution and waking up. And there's this big emphasis on all of these when they lay out, say, a number of stages of growth. It's like, the emphasis here is this is what we have so far. This is just what we have so far. Everything is happening in real time, and there is no stopping the advance of evolution, spiritual evolution, psychological evolution. So there's no endpoint, and so therefore waiting for that endpoint is a total waste of time. And so the big idea for us to internalize here, just right out the gate, is that whatever we're putting off for that one perfect starting moment, we may as well start that now and allow that to be a concurrent process with that other process of healing and growth and so forth. Not only that, but allowing the processes to speak to each other. So say you've been waiting to start your business and grow your business. So start it now while you're in a meditative practice of waking up or psychological growth, and then notice how they feed into each other. For example, say you're developing your business and you need to start hiring employees, and now you're like the areas in which you're immature interpersonally starts coming up and flaring up, well, now you're being brought to a place where you have to solve this. You have to grow up and become better in order for your business to function. So these things are not just two separate tracks. They speak to and inform each other. Now, where this has been showing up for me is on the subject of manifestation, which is something I spoke about on one of our recent Sovereign Creator Collective calls. And I don't think I put out a video on it recently, but I think I will. On the subject of manifestation, which is a contentious issue, because what we're discussing when we discuss manifestation is creating from your intention, creating from your will, and imagining it and working with such ideas as the quantum field and morphogenetic fields, where there's a lot of literature and research on them, but there's, again, still very hotly contested. And I, for one, am intensely interested in truth. And what I want, profoundly so, is to know what's true and to align myself with what's true. So if manifestation and the study of manifestation and the law of attraction, if it's true, okay, good, I'm there. And I've certainly had many profound experiences with it. But then, there are other, there are reasons, there are other ways of viewing it which are also incredibly valid and also worthy of exploration. There is one such point of view that I want to bring up now, which is the one that I've gotten from Matt Kahn. So everything that I've ever received from Matt Kahn, with essentially no exception, nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, has been gold. It's just worked for me. It's just plugged right into my life, and it's been beautiful. And if you ever find yourself in a position where you're working with a teacher or a speaker or a healer where everything they seem to do is gold, then you may fall into the temptation to give over your authority to that person, where you actually write them a blank check and just automatically assume whatever comes out of their mouths is correct. Now, the case with Matt Kahn and this idea that I'm going to get into is not that his idea is not correct, but very, very, very importantly, the idea doesn't resonate for me. And so the difference here is that I don't think this idea, again, I'm going to get into it presently, but I don't think this idea is necessarily false. I think it is probably true, but I am not in a place where I can access it. I'm just not in that territory with it. And so therefore it does not come into my life as true. And so therefore it is false in my own world. So, whether it, like, the whole thing is just subjective, like, what's true and false for him, what's true and false for him is just for him, and what's true and false for me is just for me. And, whatever's outside of that, who knows? I'm not making a philosophical claim on that level. But what I am saying is that this idea didn't work for me. So here's the idea. When Matt Kahn talks about manifestation, what I've heard him say often is that there is some truth to it, but a lot of what is coming to us is already coming to us regardless of whether or not we intended. So he gave this example once of going to a parking lot, going to a store, and then on his way to that store and on his way to that parking lot, he manifested for himself like the perfect parking spot. And she shows up and it's there, like it's the perfect spot. And then he gets in and parks and walks out, and then he speaks with his guides about it, and his guides tell him, that was already going to be there even if you didn't manifest it. And so that has been his position on it, as far as I can tell, assuming I am getting this correctly. Now, what I have done is I took that and I internalized that very deeply, and I challenged myself to move into a very passive place with my creative power in life. So I really, over the last little while, over quite a while recently, I've been sort of sitting back on my haunches. I've been sort of leaning back and taking more of a passive stance towards my creative life, and really looking to interact with life as it's presenting itself to me, and putting much less emphasis on me acting on life, me introducing myself to life, me putting creative intention into life, and just really asking, okay, life, what do you have for me today? Okay, what do you have for me today? And so, of course, this is a really interesting exploration, and a lot of cool insights have come from it, but I'll tell you what has not come from it, which is a boatload of success. There has just been a lot of stagnation in my life as a result. And so what I also noticed at the same time as I've been going through this is this increasingly intense desire to manifest, to return to these basic principles of life scripting, where you just imagine something and get into the feeling place of it, like manifestation 101. As I speak to you now, I'm assuming that you're familiar with certain principles behind manifestation, where just to summarize very quickly, it's like, you know, imagine what it is that you most want to create, suspend for just a minute your beliefs that you can't have it, and all of the reasons why you can't have it, and all of the reasons why you believe you cannot step into that reality. Just suspend it for a minute, as much as you can, even though it's difficult. And then step into this, in your imagination, step into this feeling place of what it's like to be in it. So it's like, oh yes, I have all this money and freedom and big house and romantic partners, and oh my God, it's amazing, and I feel so full of life, and I feel so grateful. And stepping into that emotional state of having received what you need tunes you in a way, it sets your keynote, it sets up your energetic vibration to step into that reality, to create in a way that's totally harmonious. And if you do this not just once, but a couple times, or say make a routine or a habit out of it, then you notice things shifting. And it, you know, and does this happen perfectly all the time for everyone forever? Amen. No, but it happens a lot. And there are tons and tons and tons of people who have amazing stories to share about it. And then like the last thing they put in here is that often if you don't, like if you did try this and it didn't work, then what this means is that it's an invitation to look at what receiving issues you have around this thing. Because if you are truly committed to this idea that it can't happen, or let's say, to take a different example, if you feel threatened by receiving this thing, like, you know, say you want to be a speaker, a public speaker in front of millions of people, but like you imagine actually speaking in front of millions of people and it's terrifying, then your survival mechanism will thwart your attempts to manifest this thing. And so that will be something for you to look at and to clear in order to actually manifest. So that's the primer on manifestation. That's what it is and how it works. And this is something that you shall not discount before you give it a very sincere shot. Because if you give it a sincere shot, you are going to notice something. It will work for you. It does work for people because it is a valid form of creation. So all this to say, I've been feeling called to return to it. And it's been an impulse in me. It won't shut up. And it keeps like whispering to me in my ear. It's like, no, Brent, you have to actually intend something. You actually have to intend for something to happen. You have to actually put your creative energy into your work and allow it to create and expand for you. And I would respond to this saying, no, whatever's going to come is going to come. And so what I did then was, for the first time really, I didn't look for an explanation. I didn't look for a meta theory. I didn't sit down for 5 hours journaling, how do I capitulate these two different modes of thought, these two different ways of perceiving manifestation? How do I bring them together? Instead of attempting to bring them together, I just gave myself permission to follow my sacred creative impulse to, in this case, manifest. And so I did. I've been back in that seat. I've been just intending to receive more and grow more. It's already working. It began working right away. People reaching out from the woodwork. Like, it makes no sense. Like, there's no like particular reason why it should have happened, but just business just starts flowing in. It's amazing. And it feels so good to just get back into this creative zone and to get back into this back and forth communication with the universe, where it's sort of like a command, like issuing a command, or like opening up a space to receive something and then receiving it and doing this back and forth thing. It's very exhilarating. So that's the main idea here. It's like, okay, where is your psychology and your belief system preventing you from actually growing? And where are you making it so that you have to understand everything before you can act, before you can just step into it? You know, I think that's it. I think that's all I have to share. My battery's dying too, funnily enough. So I'm going to sign this off. I love you. Thank you for watching. Check out the Sovereign Creators Club. Join my email list. I will talk to you soon. Take care.